Hey guys, my name is Maria Park, and this is Approach the Nerd. And in this episode, we are doing a non-spoiler review for the Netflix original movie series, or trilogy, Part 3, entitled Fear Street 1666, or what I would like to call is Queer Street across the board, because there is a lot of queerness in these movies, and as a queer woman, I am here for it. But I decided to split this review. I'm doing a non-spoiler review in terms of what I thought of the movie itself, the third installment. And I'm going to make a character profile of Dina and Sam, as well as Sarah and Hannah on my Approach the Yuri channel. So if you have not subscribed to that channel, please go down to the links below in the description and subscribe to that and everything else that I linked. But as for the movie itself, once again, I am very impressed. If you've watched my other two non-spoiler reviews, I pretty much called that these movies would get better, the closer we got to the origin and the exposition behind what is actually going on in this movie. I love the naming conventions of this movie because everything that is named in this movie has a double meaning. And this movie, the resolution of this movie is completely true in terms of the things you think are named conventionally well are actually misleading. Down to the villain of this movie. I will say, up until this point, the writing has been pretty, it's typical. It's your typical horror film. There's no real guesswork. There's no brain surgery to it. Kind of predictable. But they kind of got me a little bit in this one because it went a route I did not think they were going to go. I mean, there are hints to this certain character being a certain way, but not to the level of the effect this character has on the entire story. So yeah, I was very impressed at the resolution and what basically the origin story behind Sarah Fear, the curse, why Sunnyvale and Shadyside, pretty much the people or communities hate each other, why Shadyside seems to be cursed and Sunnyvale seems to be blessed with all of this fortune. There's so much that was resolved in this movie that I appreciate. So I could say out of all three, this third installment, the third one in this trilogy, is perhaps my favorite of the three. I also love the inclusion of certain characters that we kind of saw do like a little kind of cameo or maybe like just a tiny scene in the previous movies that we didn't think were going to go anywhere. And that is the inclusion of Martin Moore in this movie. And if you remember Martin in the second movie, he was in the first movie. He was the mall employee who was taken in by Sheriff Good for tagging, his own place of work. And so he was put in jail unfairly. And he was actually more of a important character in the third movie. So yeah, it seems like everybody in this movie at some way or another, be it their ancestral history or just basically someone connected to their family, was all represented in the third movie. So I like the continuity. I like how it all flowed. I did have a few questions, especially something that happens at the very end of this movie, but that's more of a spoiler perspective. So if I do an overall spoiler review for the entire trilogy, I will ask this specific question. And if you've watched this, you probably had the same question. It's just something that you always ask in a horror movie. Why didn't you do this? I have questions. So I will save my questions for that later on. But I will say the acting, pretty good. No complaints with the acting. Cinematography was great. I loved the use of language, and the music changes were great. Like they did period piece music, basically because they're in 1666. And then the parts that were back in 1994, we got more 90s music. When we were in, the previous in 1978, we got 1978 theme music. It was very time appropriate in terms of how they were doing the setting of this movie. I would have loved to have been in, on the crew or at least in wardrobe and, maybe one of the PAs or scene runners to see exactly how they got a lot of the items that they did. As a child of the 90s, I went to high school in the 90s. I am super impressed with things that they were able to find that I have no idea how they found, because as far as I'm concerned, some of them should either be obsolete or they were so bad they should have just burned at the stake, no pun intended. So Yeah, I'm very impressed with everything behind the scenes in this movie, like the cinematography, the props, the wardrobe, everything was just really on point to me. So did love that. And again, being a horror buff, this movie pretty much fulfilled my need to have a different type of horror story. Something that I didn't feel I was going to guess the ending of, like so many other horror movies that I have seen. And I did not guess this ending. So yeah, I'm pleasantly surprised and I recommend this movie. And I would love to know what you thought about it. So please leave me a comment below and let me know. And if you'd like to sign up for Jury Duty, hit the subscribe button. If you like news next on Nerd Bell, hit the notification bell. Until next time, I can't wait for you to approach the nerd. Bye, guys.
Thank you for watching my video. I really appreciate it. But hey, the party doesn't have to stop now. Click on one of these videos and keep it going.